Hi, I'm Aabidah Rakhange, also known as Abibi, and I'm an artist. I'm 19.
Okay.
I'm in my second year of uni, and I'm just at the start of my art career. I've been painting and drawing since I was a little kid, and I think everyone has. It's just that I think I'm one of the people that never stop. I've just kind of been learning myself, a lot of YouTube, just a lot of internet. There was always like art classes in school, but never really took those seriously. Honestly, most of my teachers didn't really know that I paint. So after I ended school and they saw my art, they were like, "Wow, I didn't know you painted," because it's just something I did in my free time. And I've taken one drawing class in uni, but that's about it. I'm just really inspired by all the different artists out there. I'm chronically online, so a lot of TikTok artists, Instagram. But in my personal life, it's my grandfather, my mom's dad. He was an artist by profession, and I always thought that was really cool. So even when I was younger and I would have my little drawings, I'd always go to their house and show him my paintings, and it's something I've always looked up to. I'm fairly new to the art world, so I think the biggest is the first one. So my first exhibition, that's what I made the pomegranate painting for. That's the one that went viral. So I'm very proud of it because that's the first time I got to put my paintings up, have people come view it, and really connect with my art. And yeah, that's my biggest milestone until now. I keep calling it the pomegranate one, but her name is what a pomegranate asks. Mm-hmm. She's my favorite because she's my most known, and it's also my first original painting. A lot of my others, not these, but other ones that I've done were, since I was just starting, they were kind of copies of Pinterest or other paintings that I've seen. This is one where I truly, it was from my head, but I had a vision and I wanted to do it. That's what this is going to be. I also really love red. Can you tell? And it's red. I really liked the aesthetic of pomegranates because it's always associated with a lot of poetry, a lot of literature. Why I specifically chose pomegranate, the fruit, is there was this whole idea of peeling the pomegranate. It takes so much time and it takes a lot of effort. And just the idea that you would sit there and peel all these pomegranates for someone, it shows how much you care for them, how much love you put into it. It can be just an ordinary action, but I think it's an ordinary action that means a lot. So it stains your hands, and it's kind of just an inconvenience to peel a pomegranate. So when someone sits and does that for you, I feel it means so much. It's so important in so many cultures, especially Iranian culture, a lot of Middle Eastern culture. Oh, I recently went to Baku, which is where that painting came from, and I found out that they're I don't know if it is their national fruit, but they're really into pomegranates. Everywhere you turn, there's something a pomegranate keychain, a pomegranate painting. So I think it's really cool how one fruit connects so many different people. A lot of people told me their specific personal connections with the painting, which I think is so cool. Well, I started with just sketchbooks, small sketchbooks, and I would use all kinds of mediums, oil pastels. I really like oil pastels, acrylic, watercolor, markers, pen, pencil, just everything. I was trying everything out in sketchbooks, but my first big canvas painting I did, which is this one, I used gouache. I used a lot of gouache in my sketchbook, and the more I was experimenting, I realized I like gouache the most. I'm too impatient to work with oils, and I'm too indecisive to work with acrylics because they dry so fast, and I think gouache is the perfect in-between. I love the way it layers, I love how bright the colors are, and it's not very common to use gouache on canvas. A lot of people don't know that you can, but you can. The only kind of issue that I've struggled with is varnishing. So I can't really do acrylic varnish on gouache because it would reactivate. So I did some research, and turns out there's a jelly that you use, which is what I use, a wax medium, and that's what I use here. I love jewelry. Can you tell? I love jewelry, and I realized that a lot of Indian jewelry, Indian jewelry is so beautiful, but there's not a lot of representation of it in like any form of art, especially paintings. And I wanted to bring that representation. And so I just kind of looked at all of the Indian jewelry that I had. I think Maang Tikkas especially are really beautiful, which by the way, they're the ones that like go in the middle. They're usually used for like fancy events like weddings. I wish I could just wear one every day, honestly. But this specific one that I painted is my aunt's. I wanted to commemorate her like presence, and I think using someone's jewelry is like a great way to do that, especially in South Asian culture where a lot of your jewelry is kind of passed down. So like I get a lot of my mom's who like it was her mom's. It's kind of like you kind of inherit it along the way, and I think that's really beautiful, and to keep that kind of tradition alive. Plus they're so pretty, it's so shiny. I love shiny things. Yeah. Before I posted like my art and before it blew up, I just realized I wanted to take it more seriously. And so my dad has this friend who has a new restaurant opening up, and he was like, maybe we can ask him if he wants like a gift, a painting as a gift, and if he feels like it, he can put it up and it would be like a good like exposure for you. And I was like, sure. We asked him and he was like, yes, we're actually like looking for art, we don't have anyone. So I met them, I took a look around the restaurant, it wasn't open yet, and they explained their concept to me, what they wanted, and I think it's a really cool concept. And it just kind of started there, and I made them a project. So the concept of the restaurant it's called Il Biliero, from Tripoli to Napoli, or Napoli to Tripoli, I forget. But yeah, so it's the idea that they're bringing two countries together, which is Napoli, which is in Italy, and Tripoli, which is in Lebanon. And because they're like from both those places, and they wanted to bring it together, which I think is really interesting. So they wanted something along those lines, and it was kind of up to me to figure out what I wanted to put there. So I came up with the idea of a triptych, which is 3 different paintings. They're all connected by the Mediterranean Sea, which is what connects those countries together. And they kind of share a lot of similar things in terms of landscape, in terms of their food, their ingredients, a lot of lemon, lime, tomatoes. And I wanted to capture that, the bright colors, the mosaic tiles. It's so cool for me to see my paintings up somewhere permanently in their new house. It was a bit of a struggle, like letting go of my paintings, because I haven't really sold an original as of now. So, you know, I worked so long on them, they were with me in the studio for so long, and then having to actually give them away, it was a little sad, but at least I know they're in good hands. So, I'm so glad, because they gave me like complete creative freedom. They had ideas, but it was ultimately up to me, and you know, I could do what I wanted, which I think is important for commissions. But I also understand for someone who is like a more business side of it, is when someone wants a really specific piece of art. Which is understandable, but for me personally, I find it really hard to explain what I'm thinking and put it into something that they can kind of see and approve. Like, for example, with the triptych, I had the idea in my head of, oh, there are these 3 arches that connect everything together. I'm not really that good at sketching those things out, because like I can see it in my head, but I can't really put it into paper. So I'm glad that they trusted me with it. But yeah, it's something I'm working on figuring out how to convey what I'm thinking, because I think that is important for someone who wants to take up more commissions in the future. When I have an original idea, first thing I'll do is go on Pinterest and see if it exists, because maybe it's just something like I picked up. And if it doesn't, or if like it partly does, then I'll just pull out just a normal sketchbook, any sketchbook, and pen, pencil, just very rough ideas of the composition, which I think is something I picked up from like the one drawing class that I did in uni, is getting the compositions right first. And then I'll take like different reference pictures and kind of edit them together on like Pixar or any like silly little editing app. Doesn't have to look too good, just so I know what to do. And that's where I start. And then when it comes to the actual painting process, like blank canvas, I do an underpainting, usually red, because if I didn't mention, I love red. And then I go in with an oil pastel and just like draw really, it looks like a little kid drew it, but it's just very basic sketching, so I know where things are. And then I straight up go in with the paints. Like, I have a very haphazard process. It's not like a very linear thing. And then I just figure the rest out from there.
it sounds generic, but I feel like that's why it is generic, because it's true, is just be yourself. And if you're confident enough in what you want to do, if you're sure that you have the skills, then just straight up go for it, you know? It can be scary in the start, like it's gonna take a while for you to like learn what you're doing is right or wrong, but if you truly actually believe in yourself that you can do something, then like it's gonna happen inevitably. And don't force yourself to do things that you know in your heart are not meant for you. When I was really young, like until I was like 9 years old, 10 years old, I would draw all the time. I would write poems, and then I would have illustrations with them next to them. That's something my mom really encouraged me to do. But I think as I grew a little older, I've made lesser time for art, but I was focusing on like other things I was interested in. I had a phase where I was really into crochet, so that took up most of my time. And then until COVID happened, 2020, when I had so much free time on my hands, I started to explore more of my hobbies, and I got really into K-pop. And that kind of made me want to get back into art, where I started making more portraits. They weren't very good portraits. And like every other day I would go on call with my friends and think, guess who this is? And they didn't get it right, but that's okay, you know? And I have like a whole journal full of it. And that's when I got really back into it, and that's when I got more journals and I started drawing more regularly. And yeah, I didn't paint that much. It's been very recent that I started painting. It was mostly drawing before. Painting, maybe like the end of high school is when I actually started painting. That's why it was always on very small scales, just in the sketchbook. And then when I did try doing it on canvas, before this, I did like a couple other ones on canvas. Weren't very good, but I realized how different it is when you're painting on canvas. Honestly, I think it's so much easier for me to paint on a larger scale than it is on a smaller scale, which is why I've started getting like bigger canvases. I don't know, I just think it's more easier, especially with my style. I love being able to see the paint, see the brush strokes. Like, I don't want it to be too realistic. I want you to be able to tell that it's paint, because it is. And I think that's why with the pomegranate as well, with the seeds, my original plan was actually to embroider like pearls, beads onto it, like pomegranate seed looking beads. I didn't have enough time for it because this was made on a time crunch. I had like 2 weeks to do it. So after like long days at uni, I'd go home at night, I'd work on it as much as I can for like a couple hours. So it was made in a time crunch. But that is something I want to explore in more art, is embroidery, crochet, because I'm really into like other forms of art as well. I think mixed media is really interesting. So inshallah in the future, I will incorporate more of that. I think since I just started, like honestly, it's been like a month or two since my paintings actually are being taken like more seriously. And since I've been painting on big canvases, hasn't been that long, so I don't think I have my own style yet. I'm only 19, like I have so much time ahead of me. I don't want to force myself into like a niche style at the start, because I feel like I want to explore more. There's so much out there. Like I want to try different mediums, different like color schemes before I box myself into one thing. Also, as someone who's just inherently creative, I find it hard to stick to one particular thing. It's also why I've struggled to like pick a career. It's because I want to do everything at the same time. And I think that's the same with my art, is I don't want to choose something specific and force myself to do something, because I feel like then I would lose my interest in it. I guess it's ADHD brain, perhaps. Yeah. I think it's important to step back from your paintings. Sometimes when you're really in the process and you're just painting the whole time, you're not able to like see things that clearly. So it's important to take a step back, do something else, spend your time elsewhere, and when you come back to it, you'll see things in your paintings that you didn't notice before. For me personally, I'm big on friendship is magic. So anytime I'm like really stressed with painting or work or anything, I think it's really important to just take a step back, go talk to your friends, just hang out with your friends, talk about everything ever. And that's something that's always got me really like just happy. And anytime I'm demotivated, I think I realize, oh, it's because I haven't talked to my friends in a while. So as long as I go back to my friends, I'm set. I just think as young people, it's really important to have good friends by your side who also like give me advice on my art. So that's also helpful. Okay, as someone who comes from like a South Asian background, I think it's really important to talk about the fact, and that's what I want to do with my art, is that like our countries are known for their like historic art and culture and their music, and like that's what we're known for. Like all these civilizations are known for, like the Taj Mahal, like all of these like hand like crafts and things like that. But in like the modern age, I feel like we've forgotten all of that, and it's like ironic that when young people want to pursue arts, it's not taken as like a serious career, and it's taken as something that's just you do on the side, you do as a hobby. And like we're so proud as a culture of our art, but we don't show that to the people who want to keep pursuing it. So I want to be an example that it is it's a real field to get into, and it's a vast field to get into. There's so much you can do in the arts, and I really don't like it when it's kind of looked down upon, especially by like the older generations. Yeah, especially for young girls. Like, of course we need to promote like all the other fields, like STEM is great, but not everyone is meant for that lifestyle, and it's really sad to see people being forced into that lifestyle. And like I was about to enter that, and I really had to fight to not. I fought for it, and I'm so glad I did. And a lot of people like from like my school have texted me saying, oh, like I really looked up to you, and you took like the arts, and that's why I also want to do it. And anytime someone says, oh, you're inspiring me to go back into painting, that's like that's honestly one of my biggest achievements, is when I inspire other people to go back to like their dreams. At the end of the day, a banker, an accountant, a scientist, like when they want to relax, they want to go home and watch a movie. You know, they want to have pretty art in their house. And none of that is going to be, like, it's kind of the reward of living that hard life is when you have the arts to look into. Like, life would be so boring and bland without art. It's when you're most vulnerable, at your most emotional state, when you look for art. And I think the world would be really bland without art. I love fashion. And even when I'm showcasing my art, I think it just speaks so much more when I'm matching with it almost. So every time I'm showing my art, I try to match my outfits with it. I think fashion is another like important part of just art in general. I think it says a lot. I think as an artist, personally when I'm painting, I'm not dressed up. Because I get paint everywhere, so I'm in just like plain black clothes. But I think when I'm showcasing my art, plus it's so like people find it really interesting. So when I had my first exhibition, the way I would like introduce people to my paintings was, hey, I match my paintings to my outfits. Do you want to come see? And I think it's just so unique, and not a lot of people do it. It's something I'm really interested in. In general, I love dressing up. I think it's a great way to express yourself. I made so many friends because I like to dress up cool, you know, just a little, oh, I love your outfit, like in the hallway, it can go so long. So I think that's the same thing with my paintings. Yeah, especially as a hijabi, I want to show that you can just be yourself, express yourself. You don't have to shrink yourself for other people. I'm someone who I think my personality is also really like bright and colorful, and I want to show that through my art and through the way I dress. Speaking of, I'm so glad you asked. Never thought you'd ask. But through my art, like in, what's the word? Inevitably? Essentially. Whatever. Through my art, like essentially my main goal is to just showcase me and who I am. That's why I like using bright colors, you know, eye-catching colors. And I don't want to pretend that I'm someone who I'm not. You know, I feel like a lot of people when they get into like art, or if they think they want to make it big, they think they have to be this certain persona, like a tortured artist, you know, someone who's really depressed. I don't think it's true that your best art is when you're at your worst. In fact, I think to make good art, you should be in a really great mental space. For art, like for painting, I would say it's just everyone on TikTok, all the amazing creators that I see, they really inspire me. But in general, for like, just as a mindset, I would say Alyssa Liu, the Olympic ice skater. The way she's brought so many people into the world interested into her sport, purely because of how joyful she is and just showing her enthusiastic spirit. Like when you see someone like her who loves what they do,
it just makes you fall in love with it as well. You know, so many people have gone back to their own passions because just seeing someone who's so joyful about their art. And I think that's the kind of mindset that I really look up to and I want to embody, and I think I do to some extent, where I'm so passionate about like my art that I've gotten other people interested into it. And yeah, I think she's a great role model. In the future, I hope I can make a lot more original paintings. I hope that I have a lot more personal collectors that want to collect my work. I'm going to do commissions for people's houses. You know, a lot of the people who are close to their culture, I want to do culture-specific paintings. Where can you find me? Good question. You can find me on Instagram, on TikTok, Abibi __ arts, because everything else was taken. And hopefully by the time this is up, I have my website up as well, abibiarts.com. And I have a Shopify, so if you're ever looking for prints for any of my work, or originals, or tote bags, I also sell tote bags because I'm really into fashion. Yeah, so that's where you can find me. Where else? I have an exhibition coming up, World Art. What if I start calling you too? Can this be the intro? The first person who asked me for a print for one of my paintings, it was like a mutual friend, and she just texted me being like, oh, do you have prints? And it's always been a dream of mine to sell my art, but I didn't think it was like an actual thing that would happen, at least in the near future. So that's something like I hold close to my heart. I wrote her like a little handwritten letter talking about how happy that I am that, you know, someone actually wants to have my art in their house.